As someone who quite comfortably fits around 6 months to a single journal, I always relish the chance to set up a new one in the middle of the year. It's a natural halfway point to check in with your goals, it's an opportunity to leave behind anything that's not working for you and introduce some new ideas, and even if the number of the year isn't changing, it's a fresh start all of its own. Hi, I'm Erin, thank you so much for planning with me. I'm in my blue era at the moment. My first journal for the year had a light blue cover, and so I'm continuing that theme with this one from TIEFOSSI. This is their gold vintage journal in light blue. The gold embossing on this one is so pretty, I feel like I'm holding my very own fairy tale in my hands. I knew I wanted some big gold stickers for the 2025 numbers to go on my cover spread, but I wasn't too sure which font I wanted, so I've gone ahead and made some vinyl stickers with my Cricut. I knew I wanted to be able to layer these over the top of some other elements, which is why I've gone for stickers rather than drawing them myself. But I couldn't tell just on my computer screen which font I would like the look of the most, so I did a few and then I figured once I had them in my hands I could decide from there. And the winner is this one that we are weeding at the moment that's got some empty spaces in the numbers. This one's called Academy Engraved LET. I've cut them out of the Cricut Gold vinyl. It's the permanent vinyl variety, which is not the easiest to use in a journal, to be honest, but I already had it in my collection and I wanted gold stickers, so I thought we're gonna make it work. Lately, I've been really enjoying matching the color scheme of my first theme in a journal to the cover of that journal, which means blue and gold, of course. But I don't actually have that much gold stationery, so I'm going to substitute it for some beige and some browns throughout this setup. I've already gone through my whole stationery collection and grabbed out everything within that color family that I think might work, because I'm really going for a very delicate, feminine kind of a theme this time. Lots of what I'm using throughout this setup is from the Blue Peonies bundle from Henriette Arts, including both of these pieces of paper I'm using as the basis for this cover spread. There's also a matching sticker sheet and a matching washi tape as well that I'll use quite a bit throughout. This brown paper doily that I'm layering over the top of them was actually part of the packaging from Henriette's package as well, but it was too pretty not to use immediately. I'm also using some things from JOURNALSAY, some things from Paper Monogatari, some things from Leela Journals. I'll have links to everything that I can link you to down in the description. Some of those links are affiliate links, and my codes that get you discounts are usually affiliate codes as well. So if you use those to make a purchase, I will also make a little commission to say thank you for sending you towards that shop. This music score washi tape is, I think, the glue that is going to hold this whole theme together. It's from Paper Monogatari, it's called Andante, and it was part of their recent Academia collection. I'm fairly sure it's going to appear on every single page of this setup. It is just so beautiful. I definitely went in with the color scheme in mind here, but I hadn't thought through exactly where I was going to place everything else that ends up on the page, so this was very much an experimental artistic exercise for me, which means lots of changing my mind about where I'm going to place stickers. Sometimes it means peeling things back up and relocating them, but it's always worth it in the end. This is actually the second setup for the second half of 2025 that I've done in a new journal, and funnily enough that journal was also blue and gold, although that setup looks very different to this one. Of course, I am talking about my mystery journal, which, if you are new to my channel, is a journal that I completely set up for 6 months of the year and then give away. And the giveaway is currently still open at the time I'm posting this video. It will be open until the 31st of May, so there is still time to enter that giveaway, and check out that video to see if you'd like to enter that giveaway if you want. Now, I am using this Cricut permanent vinyl all wrong here. You're supposed to actually use a transfer tape to stick these pieces to that tape and then stick that tape down to the surface that you're trying to transfer the stickers onto. But this piece of brown paper doily is kind of a fuzzy paper, and I knew that it would not deal well with peeling the transfer tape back off it. It was going to rip and tear and leave fibers and not go so well. So instead, I'm making life hard for myself and peeling these stickers off individually and just placing them down by eye. I realize in this light it's also kind of difficult to see them on the page. I assure you, because these are kind of metallic, they're actually a lot easier to see in real life because they're shiny. This junk journaling sticker book from RONGRONG is so good if you like your brown and beige tones in a journal. It is absolutely full of lovely little vintage pieces of ephemera that are perfect for layering. I'm using them to bring a little extra touch of some brown and gold to my page that I will layer underneath some blue elements. So this die cut window sticker is from Henriette Arts. Likewise, the peonies in the vase up in the opposite corner, and I'm using those frames to bring a little bit of symmetry to the page as well, a little bit of balance, with one in the top right corner and one in the bottom left. Let me show you what these 2025 stickers look like when the light hits them, because they are definitely a lot easier to read in that situation. Just my filming lights make them disappear into the doily, unfortunately, but I promise you they're visible. Let's turn the page and move on to my future log. Obviously, a bullet journal is an organization tool just as much as it is a creative project, or at least that's how I like mine to work for me. So the future log, also sometimes known as a calendar spread or a year at a glance, is an overview of whatever upcoming time period you would like it to be an overview of, a place to write down any important dates that you need to remember, any reminders or birthdays or anything that you need for the specific months ahead. I'm only doing 6 months worth of this because I will probably set up my next journal in like October. So I'll have that to continue working in. I'm not going to add anything to get me into the beginning of next year because I just don't think that will be necessary. I'm also just not feeling my best lately, so I needed a pretty easy and simple way to set up this journal for the second half of the year, but I still wanted it to look cute. So I'm trying to approach this in a way that is quite simple and straightforward. My kitty cat Mitsu has come to check on the process, and I need to move him so I can draw this last line for a calendar. If you need lots of space for planning this kind of thing, you can have 2 months to a page if you'd like, or you can spread things out even more. And if you'd like an example of that, you can check out the mystery journal video that I mentioned earlier. But I wanted this to be really simple, so I'm going to stick all of the 6 months of the second half of this year onto a single spread. I've divided the page into 3 vertically, so I've got some horizontal rows here, and I've alternated the side that the little calendar will sit in, and I can use the rest of the space that's to the side of that calendar for all of my planning for that month. I'm working in an A5 notebook for this, which means typically for most A5 dot grid notebooks, you'll have 38 dot grid spaces from the top to the bottom of the page. And I typically only need 7 for a standard calendar because you've got the row with the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so on and so forth. You've got 5 rows of dates usually, and then a little space to put the name for each day above that, which means I had some left over, which was the perfect place to add some washi tape for some very easy and quick decoration. Something far less easy and quick was the lettering for each of these months. I have been learning italic calligraphy, and I decided it was time to challenge myself to use a dip pen and a fountain pen ink and add some italic calligraphy this way to my journal. It was such a struggle though, I tell you what, I just don't know what I'm doing still, especially when it comes to ink and a dip pen. Especially when it's a broad nib and a dip pen. I just found I was getting lots of ink pooling on the page. I was having a little bit of bleed through. It just wasn't going at all the way that I envisioned, but I persevered for this spread. The ink I'm using here is called Unfettered Flight. It's from Ferris Wheel Press. It's a super pretty light blue that has a duochrome pink and gold shimmer in it, which is just so magical. And I really wanted to practice my italic calligraphy throughout my journal. I find that is just the most effective way for me to practice calligraphy is to do it in my journal because it is the main place that I write. But you'll particularly notice when we turn the page the bleeding that is not so obvious on the opposite side of this left page because I covered those spreads with paper so you don't really see it there, but on the opposite side of the right page there is some bleed through that's just going to have to remain visible. That's okay. The nature of italic calligraphy and the broad nib that you use to write it is that you get a lot more ink on the downstrokes when the pen is on its broadest angle, and that's what makes the style of lettering so distinctive, but that also means that the amount of ink that's getting onto the paper is going to then seep through, and it did something weird and oily in the areas where the shimmer collected as well, so I don't know, it just didn't go so well. It looks okay, actually, but I've got a lot to learn. Also, confession, I was working with just a sample of this ink. I don't have the whole thing, and it has just been chilling in a little plastic vial in my cupboard, so I don't know if that has affected the integrity of the ink at all. But I did also then spill it all over my desk and kind of have to suction it back up and into the glass inkwell that you can see throughout this video. And that happened right before I started filming. It's possible that it picked up some nastiness from my desk as well that then interfered with the ink. I don't know. Look, it was just a comedy of errors this day. To be honest, even though I'm happy with how it turned out, and it honestly wasn't that difficult, this setup was an absolute mission. I suppose the mission was a success in the end, but it was a rough road to get there. I took many breaks to go and hug my cats to feel better. I'm not going to completely abandon the ink, but I am going to abandon the dip pen for the rest of this setup. And let's just move back to stickers because they are a safe and comfortable place for me when it comes to a journal setup. I know what to expect with stickers. And I used them to hide a few unintentional ink splatters as well. Now, erasing pencil marks from a page is not a very exciting thing to watch, so I have cut that out of the video, but I did find that my eraser picked up some of the shimmer from that ink, so I tried to do it as little as possible because I didn't want to interfere with the shininess of my pretty letters. We've moved on to the next spread here, and on the left page I'm going to have a space for goals, really just transferring my goals over from the first half of the year and reassessing based on where we're at, what needs to change. And the right page is a space to track my social media accounts, both the ones that are for the YouTube channel that you're watching here and my connected Instagram and TikTok. And I also run social media for a couple of dance groups I'm part of, so I like to track their statistics as well. Here's my solution to my ink problem. I have switched to a glass dip pen instead. This one is really affordable. It's from Stationery Pal and I really like it. I think it delivers the ink a bit more consistently than my broad nib dip pen was doing, so even though it's still getting a decent amount of ink onto the page, it's very localized where the bleeding is going to be, if any, and I have a little bit more control over the lettering this way too, I feel. Not even trying to pull off something italic with this pen, just like a general kind of modern calligraphy font. Also, isn't that wide washi tape that I've used on the outside edges of these pages just the perfect kind of tie-in for this whole theme? It looks very layered, it does all of the work for you in that regard. That one's also from RONGRONG, from her Bookworm Volume 5 collection of washi tapes. It's got the blue, it's got the flowers, it's got the sheet music, it's got the beige. I just love how it's really bringing all of my elements together in one easy wide washi tape. I love a wide washi tape so much. It is only still May, so I'm not going to box myself in too much with the goals section. I'm going to leave that very open in case I think of other ways to use it between now and the actual end of June. But the social tracker has been working really well for me for the first half of the year, so I'm actually just transferring it over pretty much exactly as it was in my previous journal. The top table is for my own social media accounts and the bottom one is for my dance groups. And I'll use that first kind of open column for all of them for the initial for each of the months. So it will say Jason D. Sometimes that confuses people. That's actually just the initial for the months for the second half of the year. So July, August, September, October, November, December, Jason Derulo. Times 2. The Rum Tum Tugger is a curious cat. Anyway, moving on to the next spread. This one is also a calendar setup using much the same style as I did for my future log, but this one is for its specific purpose. This is going to be my content planner. When I'm on top of things and feeling good, I will post to YouTube twice a week. So rather than having the alternating calendars like I did the first time around, this time all of my calendars are going to be in alignment, and I'm going to have some space in kind of 2 columns to the right of those, which are each going to represent a space where I should be publishing a video if everything's going to plan. Theoretically, I post twice a week, but every now and then something gets away from me and I kind of drop a video and we just kind of pick things back up after that. So it's kind of a best laid plan situation. And I'm using the 491 Ice Blue Tombow on the left here to do the first column of where videos will go, but I lined things up wrong in what would be the August section there. I put them in the offset second line highlight spaces versus the beige that was supposed to be in line. Doesn't matter, who cares? Nobody looks that closely. I'm just going to leave it like it is. At this point, honestly, I make a mistake in my journal and I'm like, it's only going to last me 6 months. Who even cares? I just live with it. And I'm really enjoying being in that headspace because I definitely wasn't always. It's the kind of thing I'd fix for the mystery journal, but not for my own journal, if that makes sense. But if it was something that bothered you, you could use an offcut from a separate page in the journal. You could use like an offcut from a Dutch door or something like that and stick that over the top and you would barely even notice. You can use a white paint marker if it's a smaller mistake, or you can put some white sticker paper over if that is more your jam. Like, there are lots of ways to fix these things. My solution is to simply not. Although the content planner page layout is ever so slightly different to the original future log, I am decorating it in much the same way because when something's not broken, you don't try and fix it. And if you were wondering what the beige Tombow I've been using throughout is, it's the 992. At this point, I realized I had covered the spaces where I needed to put names of months with some washi tape, so I'm just going to peel those back up and literally tear off right where I need it to end. it's a little bit wonky. I don't even care. Let's just proceed with what we can. In fact, I think it looks okay, to be honest, once the lettering is down, but right now it's a bit awkward. Having got all of these month names down on the pages, I think that's the last time I'm going to letter with this fountain pen ink directly onto the page. After this, I'm going to use these little ticket shapes that are from a set from JOURNALSAY, and I'm just going to letter onto those instead, because that's going to act as a buffer, prevent the bleeding through the page, and still give me a little bit of beige context as well. I probably didn't need 2 header spaces for this one. I could have just written content and knew what was going on, but in the name of balance and symmetry, I thought it would be nice to have 2. So content and planner, and we'll use some of these pretty little peonies to really balance things out and make them look interesting and fun. I'm going to add some corners from the RONGRONG sticker book as well, because they are so pretty and architectural. I just love the historical building vibe that they bring to a spread. It's time for some 6 months in pixels type trackers, and this is my chance to redeem myself, because this is actually the way I wanted to set it up for the mystery journal, but I messed it up big time and had to sort of pivot. It's okay, we worked it out, but I'm going to set it up in my own journal the way I originally intended for the mystery journal before I made mistakes. I always have monthly trackers in my month-to-month setups in my journal as well, but I really enjoy having this kind of year overview, or 6 months as the case may be, overview for a tracker, because you can use it to compare data in a really effective way. So if you're someone who struggles with your health or with chronic pain and you're comparing it to a new medication or something like that, it's a really good way to track the effectiveness of that medication and make sure that it's working for you if that's something that there would be any doubt about, or if it's something that takes a while to kick in. I decided that 2025 was the year that I would recommit to my health, and I've been doing really well actually. I have definitely been exercising at least 3 times a week. I've been weightlifting at least twice a week, which has been awesome. I've loved becoming a gym girly again. That's something I used to do and I really let fall off, but I've been getting strong again, which is great. Bit of a weird combo with my long COVID, but the gym seems to be something that doesn't tire me out as much as social interaction. Very strange. So I'm actually setting up 2 tables here, and I have left an extra little stripe through the middle there to put the number for each day of the month through the middle of the table to make it easy to track from wherever you are. So the top half of the table is for tracking my exercise, and I will have a key. I haven't added it for this video, but I'll have a key with some symbols to represent different forms of exercise. So whether I went to the gym, whether I did a dance class or dance practice or danced at an event, I have a dance symbol. I have one for if I hit 10,000 steps, and I have another one that's for if I took like a yoga class or something. And the bottom table is for skincare tracking. I don't talk about it much here on the channel, but I am a bit of a beauty girly. I like playing with skincare. I have pretty sensitive skin, so there's only so much I can do, but I do like to skin cycle and work through a few different active ingredient skincare products. So I also don't want to overload my skin, so this is how I make sure to avoid doing that. I prefer to use symbols on this tracker rather than color code it, because then I don't have to keep pens around. I can just be like, a circle means I used retinol on this day, and a star means I used BHA, and that kind of thing. And that just works really well for me, because then I can just use my fine liner, whatever black pen I was using at the time, and the tracker still looks consistent, and that makes me happy. I've also set it up so that each day has kind of 2 boxes in the dot grid page area, and that just allows me to track, maybe I went to the gym but I also went to dance practice. I can track both, not so much lately, but in the first few months of the year I was doing that kind of thing. Likewise with the skincare, it allows me to track maybe like a morning active ingredient and an evening active ingredient. It just gives me some extra flexibility, and I like that. I'm feeling pretty good about how this tracker spread is looking, so we can move on. I'm not going to put a title on that one. I don't think it needs it, but this next spread is all about reset. I had a routine spread in my first journal that was for the all-encompassing first half of the year, but I've ended up discovering that a month-to-month routine spread is more useful for me. But having a weekly and a monthly reset spread I thought might be something that's a bit more useful. So I can use these like a checklist and make sure that all of the things I want to make sure I'm resetting at the end of a week, at the end of a month, I can just flip back to these pages and check them off. The monthly reset is actually not a new one for me. I've included that in several consecutive journals now, I think, but this is my first time including the weekly reset, and that's really where I want to be sending my focus, particularly for keeping my office pretty well organized, because if you have ever watched any of my vlogs, you'll know that it gets away from me so fast. So the left page is the monthly reset, and I've got all of my previous monthly reset items still there. I don't always get to all of them, but I do try. But I was a little stumped about how I would set up the weekly reset. So what I've come up with is I've divided them into months, and then I worked out based on the weekends of those months, how many weeks I would need for each of those months, and put kind of that number of rows for each of those months. How many times can you say months before it stops sounding like a real word? These ones, rather than a symbol, I was thinking I would actually draw a line to indicate when I've done the things and hopefully create like a don't break the chain kind of system for myself. But we'll see how I actually use it in practice, because sometimes things end up being very different to what I anticipate. I also haven't filled out all of the tasks for the weekly reset there, but I only left myself space for 5 because I don't want to make it really difficult and then just feel overwhelmed by the very idea and never actually do it. So I'm trying to keep it simple but effective. Reset spread is done, and now I want to bring forward another page that I included in my initial setup. I actually added this one later as an afterthought. I have a second video that is like a follow-up to my initial journal setup for the year that has some pages that I didn't realize that I wanted yet, or that I forgot to include, that I added later. And this was one of them, and it's a bingo board. Kind of just a fun way to arrange some goals into a gamified system for yourself. It's really fun to be able to like make a bingo line of your goals. I've tried to make sure these ones are pretty low stakes goals though, so if I don't complete them all within the year, I won't be too mad about it, but it would be very cool if I did. Some of these bingo board goals I have actually completed, and I have coloured in some of them in the first journal. That's something I'll do probably in the vlog, is update this so it's ready to go for the second half of the year. I definitely haven't done as many as I would have guessed I'd have done by late May though, so interesting. I have some things to be getting on with, clearly. But the ones I have done, I've reorganised my stationery, I've tried a new dance genre, I went skating twice, in fact, I have watched the sunrise, I did go to a museum, and I haven't seen a musical yet, but I do have tickets to one, so we're doing okay. The facing page I wasn't super sure what I wanted to do with, but I didn't want to just leave it blank because I had something I needed a double page spread for that I was planning to place after this. So I'm just going to kind of lightly decorate it, and I'm going to tentatively assign it to memory keeping, which I do have memory keeping spreads in between each of my monthlies in my journal anyway, but that's kind of for the little bits of ephemera. I haven't really been writing on those much lately. I mostly just stick down bits of paper and tags and receipts and stuff. So I thought it would be cool to do either a collection of words or a collection of doodles maybe here for memory keeping purposes, and just pick 1 or 2 things per month and put them on this spread. And Bob's your uncle, memory spread. Check back for the flip through in 6 months, I guess, if you want to see how I actually use it, or if I actually use it, because sometimes I do set up pages that never get used, and I have come to terms with it, and I've decided that is perfectly okay. Onward to our final spread for this setup. This is one I have included in exactly one journal in the past, and I loved it and I found it really helpful, and then I never did it again. Go figure. This one is for planning for my next journal. Do you ever get halfway through a journal period, you'll be in like April or something, and you think, man, it would be so cool to have a page for this specific thing in my next journal, but by the time you get to setup season, you've forgotten what the ideas you had were? This is the antidote for that. Of course, you can do that kind of thing in your notes app in your phone or whatever too, but this way you can kind of sketch out ideas for it, and I think that's really fun. Or just make a list. I love a good list. I'm definitely not opposed to a list. I believe I borrowed this idea originally from Jashi Corinne. She had some cute little thumbnails of her spreads where she could kind of mock up how she wanted things to look. It was almost like storyboarding your journal, if that makes sense. And I will probably likely end up doing that again, but for now I'm just going to leave this really open and blank, and I will fill it in as needed when the time comes. It's kind of a next journal brain dump, if you will. So what I envision is the left page will be notes, maybe a list, maybe working out which order I want things in, working out what I need 2 spreads for or 1 spread for or a single page for versus what I need less room, maybe half a page. That doesn't happen often, but you never know. And the right page, I think, will be those little thumbnails, but who knows? Things could change between now and the end of the year. With these last few stickers placed down, I'm almost finished with this layout and ready to call it a day, but there is one thing that's bothering me back on the cover spread, so let's go all the way back to where we started and put some glue tape down and really stick the edges of this doily. I tried to use some glue pen actually, and it didn't really work on this particular kind of paper. It was a little bit repellent almost, so instead I'm just popping little dots of my glue tape around and sticking it down with that, and I just feel like that's much more secure. And now we really are finished with the setup for the second half of 2025 in my second journal for 2025. Let's have a little flip through from start to finish. Have you picked your second journal for the second half of the year yet, if you are someone who fills up a journal in about 6 months like me? If so, I'd love to hear what you've chosen, what size is it, what does the cover look like? And if you're not moving into a new journal mid-year, I'd love to know how much time have you fit into your current journal? When did you start it? How far through it are you now? I hope I could give you some ideas for your own journal setup in this video. Definitely let me know if anything here has caught your eye that you'll be including in your own journal. And if you are looking for some more ideas, I'll also have a link right at the end of the video to the initial setup for the mystery journal too, so you can get some more ideas for that one. Or who knows, maybe you'll even win it for yourself. Alternatively, you can check out my second journal setup from last year if you'd prefer for some slightly different ideas, for decoration, for layouts, all that good stuff. Happy halfway through the year new journal season.